So the Rockets, the Rockets receive Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, 4 first-round picks. The Nets receive James Harden and a second-round pick. The Cavs receive Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. And the Pacers receive Karis LeVert and a second-round pick. I'll start with you, Jaylon. Does this trade that happened make the Nets the favorites to come out of the East, and even on a larger scale, the favorites to win the championship?
I believe Vegas has the odds-on favorite to come out of the East. I don't think they will, but and I don't think they're the odds-on favorite to win the championship. I don't think this
You
changes
don't think they come
anything.
out the East?
I don't think they come out the East. No, I think Boston. Once they get all healthy and they get everybody back and they get in the groove, I think they're the more experienced team in terms of the cohesion they have together. We still are unsure of the dynamic that Kyrie Irving brings, so that's up in the air until we see a good 10, 15, 20 games with all three of them on the floor. That's going to be my take. Steve Nash is in his first year as a head coach. I got to trust that Brad Stevens is going to figure it out once and for all. Um, I have to believe at some point he's going to figure it out. So for me, Boston's the odds-on favorite to get out of the East, and the Lakers are still by far this moved the needle a little bit. This closed the gap between the Lakers and everybody else, but it's still the Lakers for me, man.
Perry, are the Nets the favorites to come out of the East, and are they the favorites to win the championship with the addition of James Harden?
Coming out of the East, I think they can. I think it's more than probable. If I were a betting man, I would never bet on Boston. I think losing is a skill, and Brad Stevens mastered it. Now, if I'm thinking of the Nets, I think that they added one too many ball handlers in James Harden. In the wow, to quote the great Wheezy F Baby, and the F is for phenomenal. If you know, you know. He said two is a couple, three is a scene, and it looks like the scene in Brooklyn is going to be phenomenal entertainment wise, but do I think it can translate into wins? I don't know how they beat a healthy Lakers team
Mukhtar,
without any moves.
Mukhtar, what do you think? Do you think the Nets are the favorites to come out of the East, and are they the favorites to win a championship?
Uh, Obviously, when you add a top five talent in the NBA, it obviously ups your oomph. I say, but I also think they lost a lot in that trade. They lost Jared Allen and a young rim protector who's pretty cheap right now. He's on a rookie scale for like at least another year. So yeah, they're not the favorite. Okay, in my opinion, they're the favorites right now. But I still think Milwaukee, Boston, they might have a move in them to get better, and perhaps they lose to them. But they just, in my opinion, they need to get better defensively. And I'm just unsure, like Jalen said about Kyrie Irving. So I would personally, I'd say, yeah, I would say that they're the favorites coming out of the East. But knowing the NBA and knowing the nature of the trade deadline, it's going to be crazy again because it's an arms race for the East. It's really up in hands. So big teams can make good trades and get better. So we'll see. In time, will tell.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Nets play this out, especially when they add the dynamic of Kyrie Irving. But is this, and I know that they have the chance to come out of the East, but is this enough to dethrone the Lakers? Mukhtar.
No. Like, dominant guards are great. A dominant forward is what you ideally need. And in my opinion, LeBron and Kevin Durant will ultimately cancel each other out. But there's Anthony Davis on the court, and there's literally nobody on the Nets who can stop Anthony Davis. Not anybody. Nobody can mess with Anthony Davis on that team. He's just gonna be a matchup on for 40 minutes. And there's 40 minutes in a basketball game, so he's gonna be there.
What
So
about you,
yeah.
Perry? Do you think that this team is ready to dethrone the Lakers?
Okay, I think the questions there are two questions to be asked. Do I think they can? Yes. I think it's difficult to contain a team where Kyrie Irving is your third option or James Harden is your third option, regardless of who they make the third option. If that's my third option, ideally, if the chemistry is there, I'm running with it. However, do I think it is probable that they will beat the Lakers this year? My answer is no. Um, I give it a 50-50, maybe 60-40 for the Lakers, but I think they're closer than we think. However, I think they're further than what the bandwagoners are saying. The Lakers have a lot of depth that they can rely on. Yes, Anthony Davis is a big presence. Great point, Mukhtar. But I do think that this series will be a series of little defense on the Nets end. So the Nets game plan, I don't think will ever be to guard anybody. I think it's to outscore everybody. They lost a lot of depth on the defensive end in Jared Allen. I feel that he held down the paint for that team, and DeAndre Jordan is aging. So I do see a couple not free agent, sorry. I do see a couple trade deadline moves to be done in order to make them a little more competitive in the playoffs because against a team that plays adequate defense and has great offense, this team is in trouble. But I don't see too many teams that can compete with them talent wise. Hopefully hopefully Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden could coexist on the same team.
And now we're gonna move on to you, Jalen. What do you think? Do you think the Lakers will be dethroned, can be dethroned by these Nets?
I don't know. I think they got rid of the one piece that could actually somewhat stay with Anthony Davis, and add that it's questionable as to if he actually could. We don't have a large enough sample size to actually make that assumption, but like Mukhtar said, they got nobody that can guard Anthony Davis. Kevin Durant and LeBron cancel each other out. But for me, I think the biggest issue is chemistry. Um, yeah, they're gonna have problems defensively because Kyrie Irving can't even spell defense, yet alone play it. James Harden, we know about him. He has a 14-minute low light of defensive mishaps. But for me, the issue is chemistry. Is Kyrie Irving going to be okay as the third option? Is he going to show up? Is he going to go on another hiatus, take another vacation? You know, I think Kyrie Irving is the biggest factor on this roster. So for me, I really don't like the Lakers are a well-oiled machine right now, and they're firing on all cylinders. So for me, it's tough for me to say right now the state the Nets are right now that they can dethrone the Lakers, but we'll have to wait and see. You know what happens with the trade deadline. There's still a lot of games left. There's what 50 odd games left or 60 odd games left. So we'll have to see what happens.
One of the things that I want to point out about the third option thing, just to like relate it to a super team that was created with Kevin Durant. If you looked at the Warriors back in the day, um, where they had Kevin Durant was obviously the number one option. Curry was the second option, and Clay Thompson was the third. I personally, and you guys can, I want you guys to tell me what you think. I don't think that the way the Nets are constructed, they can't coexist like those three can coexist because everyone knew their role on that team.
Well, I think
Kyrie,
the sorry.
yeah, no. Before you jump in, Kyrie's not going to be okay with being what Clay Thompson was to that Warriors team, and I think that is going to create that chemistry issue that you are talking about. So yeah, Jalen, what do you have to say about that?
Well, yeah. So I think that Steph Curry is a better teammate than Kyrie can ever dream of being.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of being okay with the role that he's given. We saw Kyrie, the role he was given in Cleveland as the number two option, and he got up and left and went to Boston. He didn't like the role he was given there. He got up and left and went to Brooklyn. So it's kind of like what is gonna make Kyrie happy, um, and I think, like Perry said, all three of them together is formidable force. They're not gonna play no defense, but they'll put up 150 a game. But the question is, will Kyrie be okay with with the position he's in? And I highly, highly, highly doubt that.
Harry, do you think? What do you make of the picture that I painted with the Warriors and the chemistry that they had compared to what could happen, might happen with the Nets?
I think the picture that you painted was drawn with a false tongue, and the reason why I believe that is that if I pair if I pair Clay Thompson and Steph Curry, who both shoot about upwards of 40% from the 3 point line
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
on their careers,
Mhm.
with the greatest scorer of all time, who is extremely efficient, it changes the dynamic of everything. Steph Curry, when it comes down to it, if he doesn't have it in terms of a one-on-one matchup, I know he's running off screens. He'll come off screens. I can give him that. I can find him on a driving kick, things of that nature, and people can't really help when it comes to Durant. Hence, their back-to-back finals appearances and things of that sort. Now with this team, who do I see being a Clay Thompson? Someone who can take the amount of shots that Clay Thompson took on few or
If
limited
you say Joe
dribbles
Harris,
and play defense.
if you say Joe Harris,
Maybe maybe KD out of the big three, maybe KD,
okay.
but that's not really his utility, right? Like I want KD to be Kevin Durant.
Well, Kevin
Um,
Durant, I think just to answer that part of your thing, I think Kevin Durant has to be number one. It's unspoken. Kevin Durant's your number one. I would go James Harden number two, and Kyrie has to be number three.
you see, I thought about it, and I think if you put Kevin Durant in the role a Nikola Jokic or Tim Duncan was in, where they kind of controlled the offense and made their moves like that and pick and chose when they attacked, it could work. However, you would have to function James Harden as more of a facilitator, so that 34.1 that he averaged last season would have to probably go down to maybe like 26. And Kyrie, if you let Kyrie be Kyrie, but contain it just a little bit, so give him a couple specific ISO touches, I do see a world where it could work. But this team, the big three, is more capable of finding and creating their own open shot off of the dribble than that Golden State big three, which is why I said that your analogy was spoken with a false tongue.
What about you, Mukhtar? How do you view this big three working out? And if you want to use the comparison that I used, or something that you have in your mind, what do you think?
I think what you said was right. It is. It's the moves are. It's completely different situations if you think of it. Yes, they're three great players, but it's three. It's a two different positions. KD already joined a finished product. KD joined a team that already had a system set. They already knew that. They already knew their coach. They believed in their coach. They already won with him. They had a defensive culture, which was number one there. Like they always had a top five defense whenever they were on the court. Um, they had their key pieces and everybody knew their role. So adding KD was seamless because basically he was just gonna be the number one option that was gonna create Stephen Clay to not attract any doubles ever again, which is basically what happened. Now moving on to Brooklyn. Brooklyn now is just like it's all like puzzle pieces that they're forcing together right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really we don't know if it's gonna mesh. In my opinion, I would want it's different because Clay Thompson and Steph Curry, I would say are low maintenance guys. Because
Mm-hmm.
all they need is like they're efficient with it. Steph Curry will take okay, maybe not Steph Curry, but Clay Thompson, he scores 40 on four dribbles, 60 on 11 dribbles. Like it's like he knows how to be efficient with the basketball. But Steph Curry, yeah. But Kyrie and James Harden, my God, they'll dribble a whole shot clock possessions by themselves. So
The ball will
we
be
don't know
flat
what
by
kind
the
of
end of every game.